On today's Strictly Vikings, we're going to recap the Vikings versus Lions game and kind of go over what's next for this Vikings team after suffering their first loss of the season. We're going to take our side eye look around the league. Things are starting to get situated in the NFL. We kind of know some pretenders, contenders. It's all sorting itself out. We're going to take our Facebook scroll of the week. We're going to talk the preview against the Rams. And of course, we'll finish it off with our Chat GPT player of the day. Let's get into it. Today is Wednesday, October 23rd, and the Minnesota Vikings are human. The guys in purple fall to the Detroit Lions 31-29 on Sunday at US Bank Stadium. And my God, was that a great game. I was there. The energy in the building was as high as I can ever remember for a Minnesota Vikings game. A lot of Lions fans, more than usual, of course, because they are good. Um, and in my heart of hearts, I walked into that stadium thinking the Minnesota Vikings were going to win that game. Of course, that did not happen. I made a video about it on Friday that I posted that the Vikings were going to win. I got absolutely harassed, and I'm not complaining about it because Lions fans love to say that I'm complaining and I can't handle it. I'm not doing that. Um, I got absolutely harassed. I think there was 3,000 comments on the TikTok after the game was over. And then the Detroit Lions posted their little meme video. The Detroit Lions official Instagram account posted their meme video, whatever you want to call it. They do after every win. And I was the one that let off the video. It was my TikTok that I made that let off the video. And honestly, credit to them. I credit them. I would do the same thing. Try and find people calling out your team and saying they're not going to win a game. And then when they do, call them out on it. And I respect that. And people are afraid to do what I did nowadays. They're afraid to call their shot. They're afraid to go out on a limb and say their take because they're afraid freezing cold takes or the Lions social media team is going to get a hold of it and have some fun with it. And it takes the fun out of sports. You're going to be wrong. You're going to be wrong no matter what. If it's sports, life, it doesn't matter. You're going to be wrong eventually. And why not just make it on sports? It's just fun. It's just all for the love of the game. And I wasn't doing it for clicks. People were saying I was doing it for clicks or that I was just trying to get some interactions. I wasn't at all. In my heart of hearts, I believe the Minnesota Vikings were going to win that game. The loss of Aiden Hutchinson was a huge blow to that Lions defense, and I thought it was going to be too much to overcome it in their first game without him. But obviously, that didn't happen. The Lions have beaten the Vikings 4 straight times for the first time in over 60 years. Crazy. I believe it's the second longest losing streak the Vikings have in the NFC North. The only other one is the Bears and the Packers. The Bears have lost 10 straight times to the Green Bay Packers. And second would be the Minnesota Vikings losing to the Detroit Lions with 4. Um, it was a tough loss, but it might have been exactly what this team needed. There's going to be some film on what players need to do better, what coaches need to do better. And you can always benefit from losses, especially a loss like Sunday's. A last second field goal in a game in which you had opportunities to win, a couple first downs away from winning, 2-point conversion away from sending it into overtime. You had opportunities to win that game. And although you lost, you're going to learn a lot about your team in games like that. And I think that's exactly what this Vikings team needed. They needed some adversity. They fought through it. They had a fourth quarter lead with just, 2 minutes to go. And ultimately, they didn't come out on top, but I think they can benefit from this. It exploited some issues that this team has, and they're going to have to find a way to bounce back tomorrow against a tough LA Rams team. And we'll get into that a little bit more later in the show here. But I thought the overall team played well. The offense and defense both had their times where they sputtered out. But again, they made some plays when plays were needed to be made. Ivan Pace Jr. came up with a huge touchdown return fumble. Josh Metellus with an absolute electric punch out of David Montgomery when he took the ball over the left side of the offensive line. And it's plays like that that give me hope and confidence in this team, because if you can make plays like that, you're going to win a lot of games. You're going to win a lot of games if you can consistently make plays like that, and the Minnesota Vikings have been. So I'm looking forward to it, to 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 seeing those plays being made more and more and more. Am I worried about this team? Absolutely not. I'm more confident in this team than I was going into the Lions game. The Vikings proved that they can play with the best, with who people are calling the best team in the NFL. The Vikings can play with them. They can hang with them, and they can beat them. They beat the Packers. They beat the Texans. They beat the Niners. They beat the Jets. We'll get into that a little bit later too, but the Jets look freaking awful. But anyway, the Vikings can not only hang with the best, but they can beat the best. And I'm more confident in this team than I ever have, than I have been all season long. But it's going to take a good performance tomorrow in order to bounce back from this tough loss. I want to start with the offense here, break it down a little bit. The offense has scored 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games. They had 13 in the first 4 games. So obviously this offense is struggling to get this ball into the end zone. Here's another one here. They've only scored 3 touchdowns in the last 10 quarters of football. That is good for last in the NFL. Struggling to punch the rock past that goal line. Can they do it? Of course they can. They have Aaron Jones, Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, a fantastic offensive line. They've played some good defenses. The Jets have a good defense. The Lions have a good defense. And it's honestly just been a couple key mistakes here and there that have been holding the Vikings out of the end zone. The red zone offense needs to get better. And I think this all boils down to getting the ball to your best player in Justin Jefferson. You need to feed him the rock. And I'm going to say it again when we preview the Rams game, but you need to feed Justin Jefferson the rock. Whether it's an end around, a screen pass, I don't care if he's in the wildcat taking snaps. You need to get this guy the ball. You pay this guy to have the ball in his hands, and you need to get it to him. And I'm aware KOC does a great job early in games getting Jefferson set up, getting him in the rhythm of the game. You don't want him to go a quarter without touching the ball. That's not what you want to do with your best players. And KOC does a great job of that. And even when Justin Jefferson isn't catching the ball, he's drawing so many defenders to him. And I'm aware of that. He's a polarizing player when he is on the field. But you need to find unique and different ways to get him the ball. And KOC is going to do it. I've 100% full faith in Kevin O'Connell to get him the ball more often. The Vikings' point differential in the first half is plus 51, while in the second half it's only plus 10. So obviously the Vikings are a first half team. And although they were down at the half against the Lions, they played a great first quarter, kind of benefited from Dan Campbell electing to do a fake punt on the first drive of the game, which head-scratching move. I get you want to set the tone, and I get you don't want to just go 3 and out, then punt it away. But at the same time, you're giving this crowd even more to cheer about when you don't get that 4th down. But I think they proved that I think the Vikings proved they can play in the second half against the Lions. They were down 11. Like I said earlier, they faced some adversity. They came all the way back to take the lead after that Ivan Pace Jr. touchdown. They just weren't able to get a stop, or they did get a stop. They just weren't able to get a first down after that stop. And then they weren't able to get another one as the Lions kicked the game-winning field goal. Aaron Jones played great. Even if he is playing banged up, he's unbelievable. He was doing it all, catching crossing patterns on a huge 3rd down play. The one where Christian Darrisaw actually picked he went down line, or he down blocked on a guy to shove him inside, did a full 360 spin, and then caught the guy coming around trying to sack Sam Darnold. Unbelievable stuff from Christian Darrisaw. He is an absolute beast. And the rest of this offensive line is playing great besides Ed Ingram, who I think could maybe be replaced by Dalton Reisner after Thursday night's game. I don't think they will put Reisner in on a short week. I don't think they want to make that move then. But I think if Ingram struggles on Thursday, it would then be the perfect time to make the move, as you kind of have the mini buy, as people like to say, as you get an extra 3 days off after that Thursday night game. I feel like that would be a good opportunity to maybe put Reisner in at the guard position before the now Sunday night football game against the Indianapolis Colts. Sam Darnold got rid like a book on that Brian Branch interception. And besides that play and the missed third down to Jefferson, I thought Darnold played great. Only six. I think he only had 6 or 7 incompletions. His stats were honestly similar to Jared Goff's besides the interception. Um, and I thought it was just those 2 plays that really held Darnold back. He hit Jordan Addison on a deep ball that was a beautiful throw that needed to be out in front of Jordan Addison, and it was for him to in order to catch that. Otherwise, that ball's getting picked off. Hit Justin Jefferson on that one-on-one touchdown that he had, and that was a great ball as well, just letting a guy go and make a play. And that's what you need to do when you have 18 on your team. And I thought Sam Darnold played great. People were, blaming him for the game and that, it was his fault. And I just don't understand where fans are coming from when they're blaming Sam Darnold for that game. I thought he played great. And the fact that KOC would have given Will Reichert a shot from 70 is unbelievable to me. And I'm all for it. Will Reichert has been proving that he's one of the best kickers in the game. He still hasn't missed a kick. And if you have a shot at the end zone for a Hail Mary, but you have 70-yard field goal, I mean, Will Reichert was making 58-yarders with ease. It would have been close. And I definitely think it was worth a shot. I mean, why not? But obviously the illegal formation on the offense on Christian Darrisaw, which is honestly just a weird play. I think it's kind of a loophole in the rules that the offense will still get a snap and there's no runoff. I think teams might want to take advantage of that. But honestly, I mean, the offense, I thought they played better than people are making it out to be. They obviously sputtered out in the second quarter. And they could have used some more big plays, explosive plays, and some more consistency. But I do think they're on the right track. It's just a couple key plays here and there that they really need to fix up. And as soon as they do that, this offense will be rolling. No better time to do it on a short week against the Rams. Let's get into this defense. I want to highlight John Grenard a little bit. He's so special. Highest graded Viking with a 92.1 PFF grade. He had 9 tackles, 1 sack, 8 quarterback hurries, and 2 tackle for losses. That is an unbelievable game by John Grenard. You would think the Vikings would, be a step slower without Danielle Hunter, and I don't think that's the case at all. Obviously, Brian Flores helps with that a lot, but man, John Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel have stepped in seamlessly. And like I said, there's nothing better than seeing that blonde hair flowing through the wind, sacking that quarterback. Andrew Van Ginkel is an absolute problem. I think this defense really was hurt by Blake Cashman not playing. Blake Cashman makes so many plays in the secondary, so many plays in zone coverage, and we really could have used them. They tried to put Dallas Turner at middle linebacker the first drive of it wasn't the first drive of the game, but in the second quarter there, and he just dove inside on that Gibbs run, and you can't do that against an explosive player like Jahmyr Gibbs, because that's what's going to lead to touchdowns, and that's exactly what happened. So I like the move of giving Turner a shot. You never know what's going to happen. He's a freak athlete, and I think Dallas Turner is going to do great things for this team in the future. It's just a matter of him getting accustomed to the NFL, putting some more weight on, and he's playing behind two of the best at his position right now. Van Ginkel and Grenard, man, you can't sub in Dallas Turner for those guys right now just because just the way they're playing. They're playing unbelievable. I do think Dallas Turner is going to do some great stuff for this team. It's just a matter of time. The Vikings really needed to they just needed to muck that game up. And that's what every team needs to do against the Lions. They just need to make it an ugly game. And it's easier said than done. But when Jared Goff can just sit back there and go 13 for 13, 15 for 15 in back-to-back games, or think it was 2 games ago where he was perfect, but you need to muck up that game and cover zero, blitzing everybody. It just didn't work. And that film is going to be out there. And the Rams are going to use it. The Titans, the Jags, the Colts, whoever it is, they're all going to use that film that the Lions had to stopping this Brian Flores blitz. Do I think it's going to work for every team? No, because they don't have the offensive line that the Lions do. But it's the system or the way of that they stop it is going to be out there on film for other teams to look at. I'm not really concerned about that though, because I do think we have great playmakers. And like I said, I don't think the offensive lines of these other opponents the Vikings are going to have are up to par as the Lions. However, I do think that is going to be the game plan for other teams when they do face the Minnesota Vikings. Um, Again, I thought the defense made plays when they needed to. The second quarter was rough. Three straight touchdown drives in the second quarter, then one to start the second half as well. Um, it was difficult. I mean, stopping this Lions offense is difficult. They have playmakers all over the field. They have one of the best offensive lines. They have a quarterback who's absolutely balling out right now. And it's difficult to stop this team. But at the same time, I know this Vikings defense can because they made plays and they got stops when they needed to the most. It's just a matter of time of getting that all synced up, putting it together for an entire game against a very good team. And like I said at the beginning, I'm not losing any confidence in this Minnesota Vikings team. And I think the biggest thing to take away from it was that everyone after the game said they loved what they have inside the locker room. These were the players. They said they loved what they have inside the locker room and they have confidence in their teammates and the coaching staff in everything that they're doing. Nobody's losing faith. Nobody's pointing fingers. Nobody's doubting one another. We're locked in. The 6-1-2 and the Minneapolis Vikings are locked in, and they're a good football team, and it's just time for them to bounce back on Thursday. That's what it's going to take. All right, let's take our side eye look around the league here. Obviously, I was at the game, so the noon games couldn't really watch all that much. Caught some of the 325 games, obviously caught the primetime games. The Packers continue to win games against better opponents now. A home win against the Texans is a good win. Obviously, the Vikings did that. The Packers did that. Came down to the last second for the Packers. Texans are a great team. Packers are a great team. The Vikings beat them both. I'm just going to put that out there. So, the Packers, they're 4-2, 5-2, 5-2. The Texans are 5-2, and the Minnesota Vikings beat them both. I just want to put that out there just so everyone remembers the Minnesota Vikings did beat the Texans and Packers, and they just played a close game, but the Vikings did beat both of those teams. The Bills, Ravens, and Chiefs pick up massive wins to stay atop of the AFC. All three teams are legit Super Bowl contenders. The Amari Cooper trade is going to be a bigger deal than the Devontae Adams trade, no doubt about it. We're going to talk about the Jets here in 2 seconds. The Jets are freaking awful. But the Ravens, Chiefs, Bills, Super Bowl contender. I think the Ravens are the best team in the NFL right now. I do think they are better than the Lions. If the Ravens and Lions played right now, I'm taking the Ravens. I think if the Chiefs and Lions played right now, I'm taking the Chiefs. Because how can you bet against the Chiefs? The New York Jets are awful. That win in London is looking worse and worse and worse every single week for the Vikings. And you can't complain about winning, or you can't apologize for winning. And I'm not saying that, but that win at the time looked good. The Jets are a capable team, but they suck. I mean, losing to Russell Wilson, dangerous, the sandwich freaking Subway commercials, freaking Mr. Unlimited. I mean, getting smoked by Pittsburgh Steelers. Russell Wilson is just bad. Just bad. Jets are so bad. Aaron Rodgers is so bad. And I love how everyone's trying to find reasons other than Aaron Rodgers to blame for why this team is bad when it really just boils down to him. They fired their coach. They signed Devontae Adams. Now what? You're 2-5, and now what? I honestly have no idea what they're going to do. Maybe get Hassan Reddick back in the building. That's not going to make you Super Bowl contenders. They're really bad. Commanders continue to look impressive. They're a legit contender in the NFC. They're a very good team. Jaden Daniels is very good. He got hurt, didn't play that game. Marcus Mariota came in and served just all right. I do think Jaden Daniels is going to be fine, but the Commanders are a legit team in the NFC, and I do think they're going to win the NFC East. The Eagles played better against the Giants. Of course, Saquon scored. Booing Saquon Barkley is unbelievable to me. The dude wanted to stay in New York. There's literal video evidence of him wanting to stay in New York, and the GM saying, I'm going to have nightmares if he goes to Philly when I let him walk. The GM let him walk, and I get that's probably the right decision, but booing a guy when he wanted to stay, that's just crazy. Kirk Cousins got benched, although it's probably not the reason that you're thinking of because he played bad. It was just more of a blowout. But I mean, he did play bad. It was a blowout. They lost by 20. So Kirk Cousins got benched. I mean, that could be a headline. Michael Penix, first completion in the NFL. But I do think Kirk Cousins, getting benched and playing a game like that against the Seahawks team that nobody can really figure out if they're good or not. But that's a storyline. That's a headline. Maybe the Falcons are better with Michael Penix. He went 1 for 1. That's 1,000. That's 1,000%. That's 1,000 completion percentage. 100% completion percentage. 1,000's MLB, I think. Yeah. And then the Rams coming off a close win against the Raiders. That'll give them some momentum heading into Thursday. They'll be riding high on their horse. Sean McVay is a great coach. We're going to preview this after the Vikings Facebook scroll of the week, but yeah, the Rams picking up a big win. It's going to give them some momentum heading into Thursday. Facebook post of the week. Can't talk right now. Facebook post of the week. I'm not going to say any names, but there are some repeats of guys. So let's see if you guys can guess who are the repeats. First one. To all of you that begged and pleaded to re-sign JJ, not me, in parentheses. Thanks for clarifying that. Take away the 197-yard touchdown catch, and the dude is barely in the top 20 for receptions/yards. Seems like a stiff price to pay. I mean, this is just absolutely you do not know ball 101. You do not know ball whatsoever. Like I said earlier, you need to feed the ball to Justin Jefferson. I understand that. You need to get him the ball more. And KOC will. He's working on it. But so many defenses are putting 2 to 3 defenders, at least 2 defenders on Justin Jefferson on almost every play. And when you don't, he catches touchdown passes just like he did on Sunday. So a guy sitting here saying JJ isn't worth the money because he's not top 20 you take away the 197-yard touchdown catch. So you take away a play that he made because he's one of the best wide receivers in the league, and he's barely in the top 20 for reception/yards, but he's freaking top 5 in receiving yards. So this dude is just reaching. I swear there's not even some Vikings fans in these groups. There's just people trying to troll. This Detroit game just proves that 80% of you are fair weather fans. This loss was not on Darnold. KOC got out coached again. Just another misconception. This loss did prove some fair weather fans because people were just ready to jump off the bandwagon because they thought the Vikings were going to go 21-0 and just freaking skip their way into the Super Bowl win after going 5-0 to start the year. But KOC did not get out coached. I mean, I don't know how you can get out coached in a game that's a 2-point game in which you were a first down away from winning it. I mean, doesn't really make any sense to me. He didn't get out coached at all. And the KOC slander needs to stop. He's a good head coach. He's a top 5 NFL coach, and the KOC slander needs to stop. The Vikings are 5-1. This dude is undefeated when they win the turnover battle, and this dude has an unbelievable record for when his starting quarterback plays. This dude was winning games with Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins starting at the helm last season. And now he finally gets a full off season with Sam Darnold and a new quarterback without Kirk Cousins, and he starts the season 5-1 and loses to the Lions by 2, and people have the audacity to come at his throat. It's unbelievable to me. I'm ready to put Flores on the hot seat. It's unbelievable stuff that Vikings fans come up with. Yesterday proved he's not championship caliber. He had 2 weeks to prepare. If I were O'Connor, so dude doesn't even know the names, and Quez, I'd be calling Saleh ASAP. What is bringing a new defensive coordinator going to do for this defense? To just bring a guy in, change the entire scheme, change the entire sense of game planning, the relationships. That's going to help it? I don't think so, buddy. The Lions winning a Super Bowl before the Vikings is not a very real is not only a very real possibility now, but a likely outcome. The Lions have 0 Super Bowl appearances, by the way. This is the epic cherry on top of being a Vikings fan. Nothing but pain and disappointment. So the Detroit Lions beat the Minnesota Vikings, and they're automatically on their way to a Super Bowl win. So that means the Vikings must be pretty good if people are thinking like that. The Lions very well could win a Super Bowl this season, and they would have won more than the Minnesota Vikings. But again, we're talking about the Detroit Lions. When people say the Vikings won't do something because they're the Vikings, we have to hold that same standard to the Detroit Lions. If the Minnesota Vikings are going to start the season 5-0 and then lose the rest of their games because that's what the Minnesota Vikings would do, we have to start holding the Detroit Lions accountable for starting the season 5-1. And maybe they'll go and lose a bunch of games because that's what the Lions do. Maybe they'll lose the NFC Championship because that's what the Lions do. We got to hold them to the same standard here. Hey, if the Vikes win Thursday, they're back on top of the NFC North, right? Facts. I don't know why everyone's freaking out. We're second in the NFC North, and we win tomorrow. The Minnesota Vikings are in first place. Nothing to worry about. There was a stat posted last night that every team this year lost the game following playing the Lions. Teams were exhausted, so I'm concerned. Haven't lost faith, just concerned. I need to do a little bit more digging into this stat. It is a true stat. But I need to do more digging into like who these teams have played. Because if a team just played the Lions and then they play the Ravens the next week or something like that, it's like, of course they lost. They played a better team than them. So I'd like to see this stat, and I'd like to see, who's beating who. But it is a real stat. When you play the Lions, teams lose the next week. Let's get something straight. Detroit is expected to be in the Super Bowl this year. Vikings, not so much. So a loss today wouldn't be the worst thing for the team. Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I mean, a loss is a loss. It was a close loss. I don't know why I put that in there. It's such a trash, broken English Facebook post. I mean, that's just trailer home talk right there. How many missed holding calls on the Lions did you count? Obviously, I was sitting up in the 200s, couldn't see if there was holding at all, but apparently people were talking about it a lot. Holding calls. I'd like to see it. Apparently the refs were bad. I don't blame them. I mean, I don't blame people for complaining about the refs, and I could see the refs being bad. Why not? Lots of people in this group are ridiculous. It's one loss. You don't need to blame quarterback, coach, failed 2-point, etc. It was a great back and forth game. Thank you. Thank you for summing this up. If you lose a game, it's not just one person's fault all the time. And we don't need to make some catastrophic move because the Vikings lost by 2. It's unbelievable stuff and things that the Vikings fans come up with. All right, we got one more. I'm just confused as to why no one is blaming Sam Darnold for our loss. But last year, y'all was blaming Kirk for every loss. What happened to the same energy? Well, the people that would blame Kirk for losses were people that just hated Kirk Cousins on the team. Even if it wasn't Kirk Cousins' fault, it was his fault because he was being paid too much money and the Vikings weren't winning. Nobody holds Sam Darnold to that expectation because people like Sam Darnold. He doesn't make as much and he's playing good football. Yes, he missed a couple throws here and there, but he's playing good football. So that's why people aren't holding these two to the same standard, in which they shouldn't be. They're two totally different quarterbacks. They shouldn't be being held and compared to one another when one makes 40 million a year and the other makes 10. That concludes our Vikings Facebook scroll of the week. We're going to talk about my Minnesota Vikings punishment. So, the Detroit Lions lost to the Minnesota Vikings, and if you're not aware of what I have to do, I made a list throughout the entire season. If the Minnesota Vikings lost to a corresponding team, I needed to do the punishment that was correlated with it. They're all theme based. So this week I had to listen to Eminem the entire day for one day and only listen to him, which I did, which I completed on Monday. Only listen to Eminem. I love Eminem. He's got great stuff. Did it get old? Yes. I found myself listening to songs that I had already listened to, even though I didn't know I had already listened to those songs. I've listened to like all the top Eminem songs and like all the ones that, are obviously the the hits, but I don't really know any other than that. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna post a video about it. By now you might already be seeing it or you've seen it already, but I did listen to Eminem the entire day and it was cool. But again, it did get old. Um, if the Vikings lose to the Rams tomorrow, I have to style my hair like Sean McVay. So I was actually going to get a haircut on today, on Wednesday, but I think I'm gonna have to wait because if I have to style it like Sean McVay, I don't want it to be too short. I think it's too long right now to style it like Sean McVay, but I'll wait. I'll get a haircut. So speaking of the Rams, let's preview that game a little bit. Cooper Cup returns, of course, because it's the Minnesota Vikings, and of course the Rams are getting their best player back when they're playing the Minnesota Vikings. Of course, of course. It always happens. So slowing him and Kyron Williams down is going to be the biggest challenge for this defense. Two fantastic playmakers with an offensive play caller that knows how to get them the ball and knows how to get them open in space. That's going to be the biggest thing. I'm interested to see if this Rams offensive line can keep up with this Vikings defensive line and all the pressures. I don't think they're going to be able to. Um, but it's going to be interesting. Sean McVay is a mastermind. So nothing's going to come easy. Let's get that straight. If the Rams come out and they score on their opening drive, don't panic. Nothing is going to come easy for this defense. Sean McVay is a Super Bowl winning head coach, and he's a Super Bowl winning head coach for an absolute reason. KOC spent some time in LA, so they might know his tendencies. Sean McVay knows him. Sean McVay spent a lot of time with him. Kevin O'Connell spent a lot of time in LA, so he's going to know some stuff about LA too. It goes both ways. But at the same time, it's going to be a chess match. KOC Sean McVay head coach game is going to be an absolute chess match. And I'm interested to see how Brian Flores changes it up from what he did on Sunday to, like I said, that film is out there. I want to see what changes in that scheme of his. Let's put it that way. Feed Justin Jefferson the ball. For the love of God, feed him the ball. Early, in the middle of the game, at the end of the game, all the time during the game, feed him the ball. KOC, I know you can do it. Feed Justin Jefferson the ball. I want 8 catches for Justin Jefferson. 8 catches, 11 to 12 targets. That's what I'm hoping for. And I want this offense to put a complete game together. And this doesn't mean like you're scoring on every drive, you're getting points on every drive. I just want points in every quarter, let's say. Touchdown drive here, field goal drive here, touchdown drive here. Maybe you get a good drive going, then you punt. I just want to see a full game put together, 4 quarters of your best football on offense. Like I said, the Vikings have been struggling to get touchdowns as of late. I want to see that change. I want to see a touchdown in every quarter. Why not? Touchdown in every quarter and 2 field goals. So 34 points. Vikings could do that. I know you can do it, KOC. I know you can do it. I expect a close, hard-fought game in which the Vikings should walk out on top of. The Minnesota Vikings should beat the Los Angeles Rams, improve their record to 6-1, have their mini bye week, and get ready for the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday Night Football the following week. You got to have faith in this team, guys. You got to have faith in the Minnesota Vikings. All right. Think of a random Minnesota Vikings player. I'm going to say Matt Asiata. Why not? ChatGPT. ChatGPT. How about Fred Smoot? I feel like we've gotten that one. I'm going to say again. LaDainian Tomlinson. What? What? All right. How about LaDainian Tomlinson? He's more known for his time with the Chargers, but he played a brief stint with the Vikings in 2011. Definitely a bit random. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I had no idea that that happened. That might be a good video, though. I had no idea that that happened. All right. Thursday Night Football tomorrow. The Minnesota Vikings are going to win. Let's walk out of LA with a 6-1 record going up against the AFC South in back-to-back-to-back weeks. The Minnesota Vikings are going to do this. They're going to be 9-1. 9-1. All right. I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Peace.